Well, with their reaction to the minister's report, we're now joined by three MPs. Brian May is the Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Defence. Shelby Cramp-Newman is an Ontario Conservative MP who sits on the Common Standing Committee on National Defence. And Lindsay Matheson is the NDP's Deputy House Leader. Hello to the three of you.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Mr. May, I'm going to begin with you because I want to begin here with some broad strokes. The minister says that substantive change is well underway. I'm wondering in what areas in particular. Now, the minister talked about civilian prosecutions and military colleges as examples, but where else has change already been made, or at least on the way to being made?
Thank you. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank Madame Arbour and her team and the dozens, if not hundreds, of stakeholders that helped us get to where we are here today with the tabling of this response to the Justice's report. In terms of your direct question, in terms of what else we are working on, there's actually 17 recommendations of the 48 that we accepted and are moving forward on since May. And since the report was tabled. So I'm afraid I would take up the majority of your time here today if I went through all of them, but I think there's some key just do it's within this report that we have moved the needle on already. You've already talked about moving the cases of misconduct, sexual misconduct, out of the military courts into the civilian courts, and that interim recommendation has been in place actually even before the Justice's report. In fact, it's been in place since November of last year.
Ms. Cramp-Newman, what's your assessment of where the progress has or has not been made so far?
Thank you for that. We have to acknowledge that there has been a lot of work done, and we certainly welcome the comments from Minister Anand and her team. That being said, we have had 7 years of inaction from this government. It's almost like it's been a review of a review that was originally made back in 2014. So I certainly acknowledge the work that's been done. Our military heroes, the people that have been through a tremendous amount of pain, need action on this. And words are great, but action is significantly more meaningful. So I'm really anxious to see where we're able to go with this. Is it going to take 3 months, 6 months? We understood this morning that could take upwards of a decade before we actually see the full recommendations go into place. So we'll play it by ear.
Now, we did hear the Defence Minister saying this is going to take time. So, Ms. Matheson, what do you say? What do you think of the progress made so far?
Well, I certainly am happy to see the incredible work that was done by Justice Arbour. She was very, very clear with us today in committee, but I know that a lot of service men and women are very skeptical, and they have every right to be. They've seen this time and time again. They saw it with the Deschamps report, the Auditor General, the Justice Fish report, and now again. And it's really clear, even one of the recommendations, number 5, spoke specifically about that moving of sexual assault cases from the military court to the civilian court, but that needs to be backed up with legislation. And Justice Arbour is very, very clear about that. And when I asked the minister specifically about it, she didn't bring it forward. And those are the things that ultimately the opposition now, and is our job, to follow up and ensure that they're meeting the timelines, because we cannot let go. We cannot give up. Men and women who have served, who have given their entire lives to serve their country, are depending upon us. I'm
going to get to the timelines in a little bit, but Mr. May, we're going to bring you back into the conversation here, because you thanked Justice Arbour, but we saw her today appear before our parliamentary committee and in front of the committee, as I'm sure you know, she accused military leaders of dragging their feet when it comes to sexual misconduct. How do you react to that, given that the minister is working on this portfolio, working along with military leadership to effect change? What do you make of the accusation that there's feet dragging here?
Now, listen, I understand and I agree with my colleagues that we're talking about decades of inaction on this particular issue. We need to get this right. And what is different about the here and now is we have never seen a response to these kinds of reports like we saw today. The report that the minister has tabled is not just simply a acknowledgement of the report. It's not simply just a recognition of the work done. It is actually a roadmap for each individual recommendation in terms of how we're going to move forward. That is entirely different than what we've seen in the past. And I completely appreciate and understand that there are people out there, including Madame Arbour, that need to see action. They need to see, we need to work and develop that trust that we are moving forward. We do need to do so, though, in a very deliberate way and make sure that we have those stakeholders along with us as part of that process.
So, Mr. May, you're saying you need to have the stakeholders involved. Ms. Kramp-Newman, you say you don't want this to take forever. Ms. Kramp-Newman, what is a reasonable timeline? What are you looking at here to say that there is progress being made that is satisfactory?
Well, the timeline is it's a pivotal time in the life of the Canadian military. Right now, a third of the military is dissatisfied with their role. 34% of the people are not happy with the culture within the military. So it's imperative and a profound movement that we need to act on now. So there's no delay here. We need to see action on this. In fact, we could do this immediately. We could, for example, with regards to moving to the civilian court, this is something that can happen overnight. Is it political will that's holding it back? Is it the defense minister or the justice minister? We need action on this, and there's no reason for delay. And Justice Arbour acknowledged that today. She was criticizing the government that it doesn't need to take months and years. This is something that can be acted on immediately.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Matheson, what would you add to that? And also, what type of update do you actually need? You talk about being able to follow this in a meaningful way. What do you make of moving faster with the civilian prosecutions? What do you make of updates?
There are certainly a lot of things that the government can do quickly. Legislation is one of them. It was one of the simple, actually, pieces that we were asking for and that our board was asking for. She specifically also pointed to the external monitor, and I appreciate that person has been put into place, and we're looking forward to hearing from Jocelyn Thérien. She has about 6 months to report in terms of the Arbour report, and I think that that's reasonable as a first response in terms of saying this is what needs to happen. But I will say again that a lot of Arbour's report re-emphasized the Deschamps report. And again, that's 7 years old. So time is of the essence. People need that response. They need to see that action. This government has often provided great words, but no action. And so that's our job as the opposition, to ensure that people get that satisfactory answer that they deserve.
And certainly Canadians, both civilian and those within the military, are watching this very closely. To the three of you, thank you very much for the time. I'm sure we'll speak again. Brian May, Shelby Kramp-Newman, and Lindsay Matheson, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.